Guys, Kansas State basketball has their first addition to the transfer portal today, a big name player to talk about. I've listed out my thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, all in this video, so be sure and stick around for the full ideas behind the ad. I've also got some highlights to show you as we jump in and talk about the prospect, but before I do, let me remind you, hit the subscribe button, guys. It helps us out immensely. I am actually a few days away from getting my cat script tattoo for hitting 3,000 subs, so thank you guys for that. I'll post a picture on social media, probably overlay it in a video here at some point. But today we're talking about that and not my tattoo background. So you've probably seen the news. If you haven't, Kansas State adds sophomore guard Abdi Bashir to their roster, an explosive and talented scorer. I have a lot of thoughts about the ad, and I'll give you all of that and more. I'm going to start with the goods before I jump into the bads and give you kind of my overall thoughts on the addition. But for now, Kansas State has struck. They've got their first prospect in the month of April and in the transfer portal overall. K-State adding Abdi Bashir from Monmouth, a talented guy. Now, let me jump into the positives before the negatives. Like I said, he's an electric scorer. I've got all of my notes over here, so I'm going to jump in over on this way. So if you see me looking off, that's why. Let me toss up some stats as I talk about Abdi Bashir's game. So last season at Abdi Bashir, like I said, a talented scorer, a dude that posted 20.1 points per game and gave buckets to a lot of different people. Not just teams in his conference, there was teams that are high major guys that he cooked against. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. He led the nation in three-point makes with 127 on the season, averaging 3.4 makes per game. That's big time. He shot 37.7% from the field, 38.3% from three, and 86.8% from the free throw line. Now, I know that there's a lot of different things I could say, positive or negative. Thank goodness we have a good free throw shooter on this team. Last season, we did not. It was 50-50 at best, even if we had guys in the 80s, guys in the high 70s. It just wasn't a good free throw shooting team like we've seen with Tyler Perry, with Marquise Noel. There was a clear-cut guy you needed at the free throw line. Abdi Bashir helps out a lot in that department. Now, 24/7 Sports has him listed as a 4-star player in the transfer portal, ranked the 44th best player available and the 10th best shooting guard at his position. For reference, they awarded him a 94 grade on their service, which is actually the same as Doug McDaniel and Arthur Kaluma when they committed to Kansas State. That being said, I know there's a lot of different experts that are really low on his game as well, so don't look at this and say, okay, this is without a doubt at least a Doug McDaniel or at least an Arthur Kaluma. I'm not going to say you that hard. That being said, I do tend to use 24/7 Sports most, so I do usually stick with them and agree with them on most topics, but there is a lot of give or take in this one. Now, there's a lot of teams interested in the kid, and I know the last couple of years we've kind of gotten the heads or tails of, oh, this massive team was interested in CJ Jones, this person was interested in this person, and you could never really speak to the validity of that, because I think you look at it and you say, man, these teams were recruiting these dudes. I'm not sure if I buy that. Abdi Bashir, I do have it on good authority that a lot of different teams are interested in him. I'll read the list and also talk a little bit more in depth about a couple of them. Alabama, Arkansas, Kansas, Kentucky, Memphis, Michigan, Kansas State, Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, Oregon, Providence, UCLA, USC, Virginia, Rutgers, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, NC State, Arizona State, and Mississippi State were among the teams interested in him and more. Now, a couple of those teams actually published full articles as well through On3 and 24/7 Sports talking about the interest, and those being Kentucky and Michigan. Those two teams both had full write-ups on Abdi Bashir and wanted him associated with the program. Now, I don't know in what capacity. They could want him as depth. They could want him as a starter. I don't really know if I believe that, but either way, the talented scoring is absolutely there. Now, I'll pivot to some negatives because I know that sometimes in these videos I have a tendency to kind of gloss over things and kind of just say, wow, what an awesome ad, and then not focus on the negatives or the reality side of this. And you get situations that result in players like a Chor, where I was stoked over the top, didn't work out. Super quick break. If you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, 63% of the people watching this video right now are currently not subscribed to the YouTube channel, and feel free absolutely to ignore this and skip this, whatever the case is. But those of you that are watching right now and are unsubscribed, be sure and consider hitting that subscribe button if you love Kansas State, if you appreciate the channel. It's a great way to support me as I continue to grow on this journey, and it's also incredible to bring more K-State fans in like yourself on a consistent basis to see more of my K-State content. Once again, if you're in that 63% or if you're in the alternative in the 37%, I love and appreciate you. Back to the Cats. Let me talk about the negatives behind Abdi Bashir before I kind of move into my overall thoughts on the ad. Now, talking about the negatives, the kid is 6'7", which is great size. In that front, he's 160 pounds. That is 30 pounds less than me, to clarify, and I'm 5'11". That's not great. There needs to be some serious strength and conditioning stuff going on here, so Phil Byer, you got your work cut out for you, brother. But when you look at this ad, the kid is not a defensive guy. He cannot guard a lick. He's going to be an issue defensively unless Coach Tang can coach that out of him, which you've seen in the past. Like, I know Coach Tang gets a ton of flack for all the stuff that he does, whether it be on the court or off the court as a coach. He can coach dudes defensively. That is his bread and butter. He's a defensive-minded guy. Hopefully you can bring that out of a kid that hasn't really guarded anybody the last couple of years, his 2-year career in college basketball. That being said, I think it's possible. I don't think it's the craziest thing to assume that he could put on some weight and could step up and kind of strap up on defense and at least just not be a liability. That's all I'm looking for Abdi Bashir because his bread and butter is scoring. He's not out there to rack up assists. He's not out there to get rebounds. He's not out there to defend. He is there to score and put the ball in the basket. Like I said, 160, that is really, really small. So your immediate thought might be, well, this kid's going to get killed against Power 4 competition. The stats don't agree necessarily, I will say. This past season, he's been pretty effective against a few high-ranked teams in terms of, high major opponents. He had 38 points against Rutgers. That was when they were a top 25 team, cooking Ace Bailey, cooking Dylan Harper. These are two dudes that are going to be NBA picks this season, if not next year. I think it's this season, but had 38 against Rutgers. He looked really good. 20 against Tom Izzo and Michigan State, 15 against number 2 Auburn, and 15 against Wichita State. And now, if you notice, I didn't say his assist numbers. I didn't say his rebounding numbers. Like I said, he is an offensive system. He is not out there to stack up anything else but points. That can change. That should change. It will change to an extent if you need him with that 6'7" size to go rebound. But he's a shooting guard. He is not a 3. He is not a 4. Don't try to sell him down there because he will get killed down there. Leave him at the shooting guard spot. Figure it out in that front. He can go up and get you some buckets. But I do wonder about the defensive side and the rebounding side. You're going to need that help because Kansas State typically isn't a great rebounding team. So that's something you're going to have to pull out of it. Like I said, left those two stats out for a reason. He averaged 2 assists and 2 rebounds per game at 6'7", at least in terms of the rebounding. That's not great. 160 pounds will do that to you. Now, in reality, and I think it's a fair claim to say this staff does not have the juice to add top 50 players without holes in their game to an extent. That is just the reality of the situation. You could dispute that, but that truly is the truth right now. You can't miss the tournament in 2 straight seasons, had the NIL numbers you did, and have guys not be skeptical about playing here. So it takes the right people to sell this program as of right now. That sucks, but it's the reality of the situation. If Abdi Bashir hits, Tang looks like a genius. If he misses, he's going to look like an idiot. Those are just the 2 realities in college sports. It is what it is. But I will bring up this because I think this is a good example of how I feel about the ad. When I was a little kid, hear me out on this quick story. I remember an at-bat I had in Little League Baseball, and in reality, it was probably a full count swinging strikeout or even a 3-pitch strikeout for all I care. And I vividly remember the third base coach as I jogged into the dugout saying, "Hey, I'd rather have you go down swinging than standing and watching." That's kind of how I feel about Kansas State. This first month of the transfer portal, even since it opened, we didn't go to the CBC, 1, because we didn't have a front court, and 2, so we could dive into the portal early. We stood there and watched for a long time. We've been watching and taking pitches. I'd rather go down swinging if I have to go down. That's the way I'd rather go. I like the idea of adding Bashir, but I also know that there's going to be a little bit of okay, show me where you're at before you sell me on this prospect. Because the last couple seasons, you haven't sold a lot of people on it. You missed the tournament, especially with the money you have. That's not acceptable. This season has to be different. Abdi Bashir has to be different. And if he can hit his upside and not be a liability in defense, he doesn't even have to be a plus defender. Just don't be a liability. You don't have to hide the kid. Just keep him as an even-keeled defender. That would be such a massive step forward than he's been the last couple seasons. And if he can score on any given night, the kid is a shooting machine. He's going to hit shots no matter what he's doing on the court. If you can get that production out of him. Now, you don't need him to score 20 points a night. That'd be great. Probably not going to happen. If you can get some production that's 13 points a game, 15 points a game, you look like a genius. If not, we'll see what that conversation looks like. But for now, that's how Hey guys, sorry, audio cut out completely. I don't know what's going on today. It's been a tough day in the audio department, but catch you in the next one. We'll be back better than ever. Shout out to Abdi Bashir. I'm excited about the ad. We'll see what happens going forward. Thanks for watching and appreciating the struggles on the audio end. Have a great day. Go Cats.